It's 6 a.m. and you've already hit that snooze button 4 times already. Time to get up and begin the workout program you promised you'd start 3 months ago. Today's the day you make a change. Today's the day you keep your promises. Today is the day you...
Nope, not today.
This is a problem we can all relate to. We go about life, everything is great, but then the first signs start to show through. Someone makes an innocuous comment about your weight. Maybe you got a tough assignment at work, or perhaps you tried learning a new skill, but it's way harder than you initially thought. We've all been there. It was a good idea in theory. You had a sound plan, but then when it was time to execute said plan, things got tough and you gave up. It doesn't help soothe the sting at all when we turn to our phones for comfort. As soon as you unlock that thing, you're flooded with pictures and videos of people, some you may know personally, that look better than you, make more money than you, and overall just look like they've got it all figured out. You might as well pack it in and go back to bed, right? Wrong. The thing is, our brains, for as wonderful as they are kind of stupid. They've been conditioned to seek the path of least resistance, and when you try to do something new, your brain immediately shuts down and seeks an easier path at the first sign of difficulty. It's an involuntary response. It's kind of like a self-preservation mechanism. It's fight or flight, and your mind, facing the reality of attempting the daunting task of figuring out how to get your big butt back into shape, decided to sprout wings and take off across the horizon. Now there is good news. There is a tool we can use to help our brains to cope with this information overload we've just subjected it to. A tool that can take this large, imposing obstacle and break it down into bite-sized, manageable pieces. For those of you who have never heard of SMART goals before, it's nothing more than a tool that you can use to help you to set clear, well-defined objectives. Or another way to look at it is it's a way to take a single large goal and break it down into smaller, more well-defined pieces. Now, anybody with half a bar of cell signal could have figured that much out on their own. But what most of you probably miss is just how powerful this tool can be. SMART goals are nothing new, but most people never take the time to learn how to use them and apply them in their own lives. A lot of this hesitation for you to adopt such a proven method can be attributed to the fear of failure grabbing hold and consuming your mind. When the idea of trying something new enters your mind, you naturally seek out the path of least resistance. You're afraid of trying that new thing because in the past, you tried new things and they didn't work. And because they didn't work out, you felt bad. And because you felt bad, your mind has now associated trying new things with feeling bad. This is actually perfectly normal human behavior. Because think about it, when it rains, we seek shelter. When it's dark, we seek the light. And when we see danger, we run. It's in your nature to run away from scary things, but constantly doing so is hurting your growth potential. If you're constantly running away from difficult things, you rob yourself of the opportunity to learn and grow. That much is obvious, right? Because of course, how else would you learn anything without trying new things? But you're missing the real point behind trying new things. When you try new things, you expose yourself to the potential to fail. It's in these moments of failure that you grow the most. I'm fully aware that you don't want to hear that, but that's the reality of the situation that you're in right now. Consider what it takes to get fit and build muscle. Muscle growth doesn't happen when we stay well within our comfort zone. Sure, if you lift the same small weight day after day after day, you'll see some initial improvement, those noob gains, but over time, you're going to hit a wall and you won't see any further progress. Your muscles grow conditioned to the weight and no longer have to work as hard. If you want to grow your muscles, you progressively overload them with more weight, little by little, day by day, week by week. Pretty soon, the added weight becomes second nature to you and you'll have to add more. And as you grow stronger, your body will begin to change in direct proportion to its newfound ability to handle more weight. It's becoming not only stronger, but more resilient. The same thing happens to your mind when you challenge yourself and try new and more difficult things. It may not be easy at first, but that's a good thing. You will learn more from the sting of failure than you'll ever learn from your successes. Every single time you fall short of an objective, you're bombarded with data that you can use to overcome whatever issue you're having. The thing is, you can't gather enough data without putting yourself out there. Now, at this point, you're probably wondering, just what the heck does this have to do with SMART goals? SMART is an acronym for setting or breaking down goals into parts that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. You can use this technique to take a large goal and break it down into pieces that are easier to achieve. Now that we've established this baseline, let's go back to our struggle with starting this new workout routine and put it into action. It is too easy to get overloaded with the endless amounts of workout programs available, not to mention the decisions you have to make regarding workout style, duration, access to equipment, and diet. It's a lot to take in. And when you compound this with the fear of not looking like the muscle-laden 2% body fat Greek gods that we're hoping to emulate post 12-week workout routine, all of a sudden it's looking a lot easier to take the shortcut down the heavily trafficked quitter's lane as opposed to the far more difficult but less traveled struggle road. Once you've allowed yourself to calm down from your initial panic attack, let's just stop, take a deep breath, and assess the situation. First, you have to define what exactly your goal is. Like, why are you wanting to start working out in the first place? Is your goal to get six-pack abs? Do you want to build up your functional strength? Are you just unhappy with the way you look in the mirror and you just want to lose a couple of pounds? Knowing your end state is important because it will define what you do next. You can't decide what road to take if you have no idea where you want to go. The goal has to be specific. It needs to be clear. The more clear you can be, the easier it'll be to break your goal down into the sum of its parts. Everything that follows hinges in this first step, so don't take it lightly. Now, checking back in with the protagonist in our workout journey, his goal was to lose weight and to build muscle at the same time. He is fully aware that sounds like a tall order for someone his age. The odds aren't exactly stacked in his favor. In his younger years, this would have been easier, but things have changed. He's got a wife, kids, a career, and people who depend on him to provide. This could easily turn into a sign to quit before he's even started, but fortunately, he subscribed to the Nick Leeds YouTube channel and learned about establishing SMART goals. Knowing that his first step has to be specific, he set a goal to lose 2 inches off his waist and to put on 5 pounds of lean muscle. Now that he's got a clear goal in his mind, he's got to have a way to keep track of his progress. Whatever your goals are, you've got to have some criteria for measuring progress. Not only does this help you to stay on track and meet deadlines, but you also get that much needed morale boost when you meet an objective. It's so critical that you give yourself credit for wins, even small ones. We often glance over this, but we really shouldn't. Going down a difficult path is not only hard, but it can also be really lonely. The truth of the matter is, sometimes people don't want to see you succeed. They won't be happy for you and the progress you're making. Sometimes they will unintentionally or sometimes intentionally say or do things that will kill your confidence in an attempt to make themselves feel better. They want you to lower your standards so that they don't feel upset about not aiming higher and getting on your level. Knowing what checkpoints for progress are will allow you to keep track and reflect on them when you need just that little morale boost when things get hard. Now for Mr. Dad Bod, he decided that a good goal would be to record his weight twice per day, once in the morning and once before bed, and tape himself once per week every Sunday morning. He'll record this on his phone along with some other data to include the workout that he's doing and the weight that he's lifting. By tracking the weight that he's lifting, he not only gets a mental boost just seeing how manly he is for lifting so much weight, but it also shows him that he's on the right track to building muscle through progressive overload. Now, this all sounds pretty good so far, but we still haven't addressed what stopped our future muscle man from starting this workout in the first place. How did he decide to push on when this task seemed unachievable? Well, according to that chocolate stud muffin on the Nick Leeds YouTube channel, the next step we're supposed to do is to set an achievable goal, something that is realistic and grounded. For example, it's a nice sentiment to say, I want to make $100 million in the next 10 years. You have to be realistic and think about the sheer amount of effort it would take to make that goal come true. Now, could you do it? Yes, of course you could. Are the odds stacked against you in the most hilariously large way possible? Yes, that is also true. But that's not to say that a goal that big couldn't be done. It most certainly can be. But it's also true that reaching a goal of that magnitude would require a SMART goal breakdown far larger than a few lines on the back of a napkin could produce. Now, Mr. Dad Gains over here instead decided to dial back his expectations and to reframe his goal into a grounded reality. The reality of his situation is that he works a full-time job, places a high emphasis on being home with his family, and is trying to use as much of his free time as possible to devote to building up his YouTube channel. Time is crazy limited, and getting to the gym on a consistent 4 to 5 days a week just isn't going to work with his other obligations. He decides to eliminate any exercise routines that require him to go to a gym. Maybe he could build a home gym, but then where would he put it? No, that's not going to work. He needs something more compact, something that would allow him to do multiple types of heavyweight exercises but wouldn't take up a ton of room. After a ton of soul searching and about 30 seconds on ChatGPT, he was led to sandbag workouts. They're heavy enough to put on muscle with, compact enough to store almost anywhere, and allow him to work out inside or outside without the need to drive to a gym. Setting realistic expectations makes the goal more manageable and achievable. And the more manageable and achievable a goal is, the fewer obstacles that are going to be in your way, which will allow you to follow through with it. You have to be real with yourself. If you can't commit to taking 2 hours out of your day and drive to a gym, then just be upfront and honest about it. 2 hours may not seem like a lot of time for a 25-year-old with no kids or major responsibilities, but for a husband, dad, and supervisor, those 2 hours could mean the difference between achieving other goals or building bonds with the family. Don't let anyone try to peer pressure you into what they believe is the only method of doing something. What works for them might not work for you, and that's totally fine. That's literally the whole point of using this framework. Your aim is to find out what works for you, execute, and then you can accomplish your goal. We briefly touched on this in the last section, but it's so important that your goal not only aligns with your other goals, but also aligns with your current situation. Yes, it would be great if we all had time for a 2-hour gym session 5 days a week, but that just isn't feasible for everyone. Due to other obligations, we have to find another way to make our goals work. One of the most overlooked aspects of setting a relevant goal is ensuring that the goal truly matters to you. This seems so obvious. Of course, you would set a goal that matters to you because you were the one who set the goal in the first place. But in reality, that's not always the case. In fact, I'd argue that this is, more often than not the case at all. Many of the thoughts we have and the decisions we make are a direct or indirect byproduct of someone else superimposing their opinions onto us. Every time you scroll through social media, you're being flooded with images and videos of people who, in your mind, are at a level that you want to be at. So what do you do in turn? You make goals and promises to yourself that you're going to change and that you really mean it this time. Sound familiar? Or maybe you work a job where it's common practice for you to be handed problems and projects to come up with solutions for. Is solving these problems your goals, or are they your boss's goals? Finding a way to make your goals relevant to you is a criminally underutilized tool for helping you to see your goals through to completion. While the other steps are useful for making progress and remembering why you started in the first place, finding a way to frame your goal in terms of relevancy can be the subconscious motivator that takes over when the rest of your mind and body has long since given up. When our aspiring dad bod bodybuilder hits his limit and wants to cut his rep short or end a set early, it's the way he frames the goal that helps him to push on. Instead of quitting on that last set and cheating himself, he instead thinks to himself, if I quit on this workout, I'm teaching my kids that quitting is an acceptable option. However you choose to frame it, be sure it's something that is powerful enough to carry you through to the finish. By framing this workout into something bigger than the sum of its parts, suddenly this goal of moving around weight transforms from a burden to bear to a no-fail objective. Finally, we have the most straightforward portion. Every goal you set needs to have a target, no-crap date time group. A task must have a deadline. Without them, you have no way of knowing if you're making any forward progress. Setting times on things you want to accomplish allows you to hold people accountable, whether it's yourself or someone else. This is hands down the one that I focus on the most. I'm always thinking about time because to me, time is the great equalizer. How people think about time, how they utilize their time or someone else's, these are all key indicators of how they value themselves, how they value others, and how competent they are. Now, our super stud dad has set a target timeline of 12 weeks to achieve his goals. That's not overly aggressive and gives plenty of time to collect enough data to know if what he's doing is working or not. At the end of the 12 weeks, he can read through the data and adjust accordingly. But in the meantime, it's business as usual. 12 weeks, 5 days per week, 2 weigh-ins per day, and a waist measurement every Sunday. Even if your goals don't revolve around fitness, there are tons of other applications for using SMART goals. How about planning a trip or a family vacation? Yes, I use this technique for that as well. Me and the family love getting outside, hiking, camping, whatever. We love it. When the wife and I first start planning a trip, I often use SMART goals to assist me in outlining the big picture of the trip. This helps us to figure out not only where we want to go, but also what we want to do, how long it'll take, travel arrangements, foods, all that. I'm aware that sounds all kinds of crazy and maybe even a little bit extra, but when your time starts to become more precious, you find that a little planning up front can not only lead to a better overall experience, but also reduces stress by revealing key variables that you otherwise would have missed altogether. Now, hopefully you got some value from this. If you're considering using SMART goals, but maybe you're a little too uninspired to do so, then check out this video right around here, maybe here, one of those two. All right, later.